Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, the NAIA Supplement Safety, Collegiate Trends, and Drug-Free Sport Axis. Today's webinar is going to be a little bit different than our other webinar series hosted by Drug-Free Sport, in that we really are going to be focusing on our partners at the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. The NAIA has recently joined Drug-Free Sport Axis as a client to enable them to utilize all of our services and functions for athlete as well as sports medicine education surrounding substances of abuse as well as drug testing, program policies, and procedures. My name is Laura Gray, and I am the Director of Education here at Drug-Free Sport. I do have a background in sports nutrition, serving as a sports dietitian at a Division I school for the NCAA, but much of what I do since I've been with Drug-Free Sport has been focused on really educating athletes about dietary supplement safety as well as some sports nutrition options and opportunities to excel in their performance without any of the risks. So that will really be our focus today, to kind of lead you through and also introduce you to Drug-Free Sport Axis and all that it has to offer. Much of our focus here at Drug-Free Sport is on dietary supplements, and the reason that we focus here and we know that education is so important is that in what we do, we see and notice that dietary supplements truly have become the PEDs, or performance-enhancing drugs, of today's athlete. And there are many different reasons that athletes may choose supplements over food. To gain muscle, they think they need more protein to compensate for nutritional deficiencies, kind of that safety net. They think they just need more nutrients because maybe their diet isn't giving them everything that they need. Also to increase energy or decrease fatigue, feeling slow, but what we're really noticing is that oftentimes athletes don't even know the exact reason they are consuming supplements. And this comes down to the fact that it just was recommended to them by someone else as a good idea. And they thought, well, why not? I'll go ahead and take that. And so we want to take a look at some of their sources of information. This information is from the NCAA Substance Abuse Survey. Their last one, or the last results, came out in 2014. And while I realize that this is not NAIA specific, I really do think that this is a great snapshot of reliable and validated data that we have on our collegiate student athletes. And you can see where they're getting or reporting their sources of information relating to supplementation. But the Substance Abuse Survey covers all sorts of topics, as well as trends in marijuana use, prescription stimulants, and other substances. Specific to this slide and their sources of information for dietary supplements, the two probably most credible sources that we might identify on this screen might be the athletic trainers and registered dietitians. Yet as you can see in this pie chart, it's actually less than 25%, or less than a quarter of student athletes report actually getting their information from those sources. The large majority are doing more from face-to-face contact and conversations with family and coaches and other media. Specifically, I think what we see is the influence and impact on social media for this group of athletes in 2017. And so these are some examples that might show up on the news feed for student athletes, and really how Facebook targets their ads and makes their money. If you have a student athlete who posts on their profile that they are a soccer player at such and such university, immediately they will get pinged for a lot of these different ads for supplements, weight loss regimens, a lot of advertisements that can often appear to be from a credible source or just somewhat interesting. And we actually do receive questions from athletes who have found a product from clicking a link on social media. And it's not just limited to Facebook, but Twitter is also a significant contributor in this arena, as well as other social media platforms such as Pinterest, and even growing more for Instagram as well. But beyond social media, I really want to take a look at the marketing that goes into this, and really showcasing how vulnerable our athletes can be to some of the product marketing that is really quite smart if we take a step back and take a look at it for many of these programs. And instead of scouring the web and finding my own examples, I really wanted to show you some real-life examples. So these are all marketing platforms, whether it be advertisements we found or their specific websites for these products that we've received questions about from real collegiate student athletes in the field. And so I'd just like to point out a few main words here: shatter your lifting records, build muscle fast. Even the seemingly type of endorsement that we have here, where it looks like this particular product has been promoted by GQ and approved by Men's Health. And so lots of these different tactics can be used to get athletes to believe in this particular product over another. Another example we have here is when time is running out, right? Get your sample fast. You want to be ahead of the curve type of thing. And so you can see even here, hurry, claim your trial bottle now, maximize your workout, limit only one trial order. Due to high demand, there's this big warning at the top of the screen. Due to high demand from recent media coverage, we can no longer guarantee supply. But as of, we currently have product in stock. So, we're rushing trials, we're trying to get that in. The other thing that's a red flag or noticeable about this product that we see, and these are two different advertisements, but if you were to look them up on Google or a different search engine, you can actually see that compared to the other one we have, they look like they're within the same brand family. But some of these websites that show up, the only thing that's different is the face value of the actual product label. But the images, the wording, the messaging is exactly identical for both products, even though one claims to be testosterone support and the other claims to be cleansing enhancer. Yet all of the marketing terminology for both is exactly the same. Oftentimes, these are just two examples, but we get similar products that come hand in hand where the marketing is identical, and if you look a little bit further into the products, they've also been cited as consumer scams. And so again, some red flags for our student athletes. This is another example, and one that we do receive or have received from student athletes in the past. Just to give you an example of some of the real-life situations that our athletes are dealing with. And I like to show this example because I think it's a good reminder to us that within the collegiate population, we are dealing with an athlete that is both a full-time student and also a full-time athlete. And so some of their decisions may not just be about how do I become a better athlete? How do I become faster? How do I increase my endurance? But rather it may also be related to the other side of what it means to be in college, and that might be their social network and increasing their confidence about their body image and trying to find the girl or trying to find the guy and put their best foot forward. And so this is kind of an example of that. And I'd like to point out that in many cases, an athlete might just be looking for things like that it's all natural formula and that it works fast. But when we read further more about this product here at the bottom, it says, number one, product is tested in the clinics and confirmed by scientists that it's the most effectual natural male enhancement pill for males to improve their powerful conditions. Well, some of that grammar might be a little bit off as well. That could be a red flag, but I guarantee that this product is also not tested in the clinics and not confirmed by scientists, but you can see how this might appeal to a student athlete to believe that it is safe. Not to mention the fact that it increases testosterone levels, and they want you to read reviews on Amazon.com that we'll talk about here as well. Here are some other examples of marketing. Our most intense supplement, premium testosterone booster. These, again, are all kind of different sites and marketing that we've seen come together. And really we have to think about not just the wording, but the images that are appealing to student athletes today. And I point out the product at the bottom of the screen, the butt plumping cream, which is a little bit humorous. It's okay to laugh about it, but again, a real product that's come into drug-free sport access where an athlete is looking at taking this particular product. I think this is another clear example of an athlete that is conflicted between what is performance enhancing or going to help them be a better athlete versus what's going to help them be a better, better college student, I guess, and putting their best image, self-image forward. And so we really have to consider that when we talk about education and risks. This one in particular, it's a natural products that help women safely enhance and slim their bodies into shape and keeping the curves they desire. And it talks about at the bottom being a miracle cream that uses both science and nature to boost the volume and shape of the hips and buttocks. So really, again, just leading into the different vulnerabilities of our athletes today. This will be the last marketing that it'll show for the product labels, but I'd like to point out a few other things. On the left-hand side, you have a quite enormous man, if you will, with bulging muscles, bulging veins. And when we talk and go to campuses and talk about supplement safety to athletes, I think it's a good reminder that somewhere along the lines there's a disconnect, right? Because drug-free sport does a lot of work with professional sport organizations in football, in baseball, golf, etc. And I think it's a good thing to mention to a college athlete, hey, when was the last time you saw a professional athlete that looked like this gentleman? Right, the reality of what an athletic physique is that will provide the endurance and the power and physical capability needed for optimum performance is going to be very different than the physique that might be sought after through these pictures. This one in particular, I like to point out also, it says at the bottom it's required for weightlifters, bodybuilders, competitive strength athletes, or individuals looking to supplement their daily protein intake. So this product really casts quite a wide net to kind of catch everybody in the mix, right? And if an athlete gets in and says, well, it's required for these individuals, that might really steer them in that direction versus looking for other options. For women, a pre-workout thermogenic, we have to be thinking about the time of year as well. This time of year, right after New Year's resolutions, everybody's trying to slim down, pay attention to weight. Athletes aren't immune to that. It is pervasive again in that capacity, and we get a lot of questions about thermogenic fat-burning products at this time of year that can put a lot of athletes in danger and extreme health risks. This one, talks about sculpting and toning. It incinerates fat. Intense mental focus. Even the pre-workout on the right-hand side here, animal intensity, superhuman strength, speed, and the power to push yourself beyond the limits of normal human endurance. I mean, really just some of these catch-all phrases that, if you got the right athlete looking at this, they're saying, yes, that is what I need, right? Even just how they appeal from breaking down some of that. You really have to try this stuff to truly appreciate just how good it is. 1 or 2 scoops before a workout and boom, 30 minutes later, all you want to do is get to the gym and to tear it to pieces, right? You start seeing a lot of this imagery that can really latch on to an athlete's psyche as well. But beyond just the product labeling and marketing issues and risk factors that we might take a look at, we're also dealing with these third-party distributors, such as this one shown here, that are promoting products as college athlete approved or NCAA approved or NAIA approved. And unfortunately, no sport organization actually approves products because of the limited oversight of the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA. But if you're a college athlete and you're looking for what you would consider a quote-unquote safe product, this might be something that you come across and think, oh wow, somebody's created this site just for me and everything on here is legal to take, and it won't cause any issues. And that's quite a different scenario, because when we actually looked at these products, we saw a number of them that actually still listed banned substances or listed discontinued products which can be a significant red flag for athletes as well, as products can be discontinued or recalled for any number of reasons, not to mention misformulations or the presence of banned ingredients that are not listed on the label. So really a red flag to pay attention to. So that was marketing, but beyond the marketing, what are some of the other risks associated with supplement use for our athletes? And the first one that should come to mind is cross-contamination. So if you take a look on the right-hand side at product A, product A is labeled as product A. And so we assume that when we open it up and we consume the contents of product A, that it will only be everything listed on the label for that particular product. Well, cross-contamination is when the same manufacturer also manufactures product B and product C. And cross-contamination is when small amounts of product B or product C end up in product A, but are not listed on the label. This may be due to any number of reasons. It could be poor manufacturing practices, not fully sanitizing the equipment between processing the different products, and so it will always be important for athletes to understand the risks if they are sourcing supplements from a company that makes some products that do not contain banned ingredients and others that may contain banned ingredients or do contain banned ingredients on the label, because the risk of cross-contamination is very real. Other issues may be spiking and adulteration, and this may happen for supplement brands that are looking to increase their bottom line, and so they're using cheaper ingredients or listing on their label that they're using all of these high quality ingredients, but when you actually test the product or see what's inside, it's a lot of different fillers and really nothing that's actually on the label. And so that can be a real problem, specifically with protein spiking, where it actually can be quite a hit to a college athlete's budget if they're not actually getting what they think in the product. Counterfeit supplements are also becoming an issue, and this is where somebody will try to mimic a product label of a popular supplement, for example, and try and recreate the different types of fonts and the different imagery on the label, and go to a container store and buy plain supplement bottles or capsules just like you see for product A on this screen here, and they can buy those in bulk. And frankly, they can use something as simple as a hairdryer to get that label onto that product, fill it with any number of cheap ingredients, and then sell it on a third-party distribution site, such as Amazon.com. There are a number of other distribution sites, Tiger Fitness, or you may have bodybuilding.com is another example of that, where, and specific to Amazon, they have had a number of quality assurance issues with counterfeit supplements being sold online. And I think this is an important education tool because a lot of times we think companies such as Amazon are reputable. And so we really want to be cautious about that and talk about that with our athletes. There are another number of other cautionary points with risks, beyond just the drug testing susceptibility and presence of banned substances, but because of the limited oversight of the FDA, a lot of these products haven't been tested for safety or purity, and so a lot of them can contain really dangerous amounts of heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides that can cause some long-term medical health conditions. Another trend that we're seeing and risk with some of supplements is the presence of herbal ingredients. And a lot of these products are touted as all natural, just as we saw for the Alpha Male XL, the male enhancement pill, when we were taking a look at the marketing. They claim to be all natural because they contain plants. Well, the problem with that is twofold. First point is that a lot of these herbal ingredients have very limited scientific information on their safety, on their purity, on the chemical constituents that might be present in there that could cause a problem with a drug test and be a component of, let's say, a smaller stimulant or even an anabolic agent. And a lot of times, some of them can even be known to be toxic for human consumption. The other side of that is, and I've listed 3 examples here, is when we have a herbal ingredient that is a potential source of banned ingredients, specifically for stimulants. And I use this example of the Pelargonium graveolens because a lot of times these products will be listed under their Latin name. And unless you've taken Latin in school and can remember and keep all of these botanical names straight, you might not actually know what that is. And an athlete especially is just thinking it's going to be a plant, it's got to be a natural source, so what could be the harm in that? Well, there's a number of ingredients to date that have been found to be a source of amphetamine-like stimulants that can cause issues with drug testing. Or, on the other hand, these ingredients are added to products to mask the addition of banned substances that the company claims are naturally occurring in those plants. Yet when we've tested those plants and those products, we actually can identify that, in fact, no, these synthetic stimulants are not found in that particular plant. The other issue or trend we're seeing is the presence of glandular or organ tissues from animals. And so I have a couple examples here, the desiccated bovine liver or bovine adrenal extract, but really we've seen thyroid extracts, pituitary extracts, and it doesn't have to just be from cows or bovines, it's pigs, it's sheep, I think we've even seen some goat, and we really need to consider, if we go back to basic biology and we understand some of these organs really can be a source of significant amounts of hormones or growth factors that can cause some issues with drug testing, but also think about the significant health risks here. We have 18, 19-year-olds, that have hormones that are already in considerable flux. And then we're also then you're putting in these exogenous sources of additional hormones from a different species, and that can lead to some significant health risks as well. So really something to consider. And we are seeing these, they're not isolated products. All of these, the herbals, the glandular products and organ tissues, those are starting to appear in our protein powder blends, even some multivitamins that you see on the market. And so it really is pervasive in the supplement industry and those that we review through Drug-Free Sport Access. I also like to share this slide. This is from Consumer Reports, 15 supplement ingredients to always avoid. And I really like to show this because it is the flip side of reviewing supplements and thinking about the risks associated with drug testing and maintaining an athlete's eligibility. But really we also, as sports medicine individuals, need to understand the long-term health risks that can also be associated with supplements. And some of these that you take a look at on the left-hand side really can be, they're pretty commonplace. Caffeine powder, comfrey, green tea extract. I think a lot of these appear in many supplements that we get over the counter. Yet you can see the number of risks and significant risks, carcinogens, liver damage that have been reported once these products as adverse effects of these particular items. And so it's really an important education piece to communicate to our athletes. The other thing that's important to communicate, I think, is where do supplements come from? When we see them on the shelves, and they have bright and shiny packages, and they look to be, in these very tightly sealed containers. They've gone through the limits to make sure that nobody can open them without actually buying them. And we have this image that these products are prepared by scientists in white lab coats and extreme sanitary conditions, and they've have microscopes everywhere, and they've got different tinctures, and they're testing it and making sure that it's safe for us to consume, and it's the right exact amounts of everything that goes into it. But that might not always be the case. And so I'm going to share a few pictures here, and these are from our partners at NSF Health Sciences and their dietary supplements department. And this is actually from a dietary supplement manufacturer audit that they did. And you can see that these conditions are very different than what we might consider in our mind's eye. If you remember the one marketing piece that we were talking about earlier, where I mentioned the inclusion of digestive enzymes, and if I didn't, forgive me, but Really, digestive enzymes are another thing that are being added to a lot of products today because it mostly as a marketing tool, because they then can say, oh, it's easier to digest and metabolize and it's more bioavailable to the body because of the addition of these digestive enzymes. Well, first you can see where some of the digestive enzymes may come from, but also I can tell you as a sports dietitian, really the addition of digestive enzymes there's really no point to that. Our bodies are amazing vessels that produce enough digestive enzymes unless there's a significant metabolic disorder that I will say most athletes do not have and can digest most any food product just fine. Here's some quality control images just to show you the difference there. This is again the same audit, difference of raw material storage. And this is the final one I'll show you here, but you can see the status of their centrifuge, filter troughs that look like they're nothing more than a common bed sheet. We've got motorcycles in the same area that we have raw materials and transfer of materials into different containers. So a little bit different than we might consider in our mind's eye when we're looking at the product on the shelf. So with all the risks associated with supplements, what can we do? And there are a few tools that I encourage you to use together to significantly limit or minimize the risk associated with supplements for our athletes. And the first one is third-party certification. And I want to take a moment just to distinguish. I know earlier I was talking a lot about third-party distributors, and that's very different here. The third-party distributors, again, are those websites that are selling many different brands of dietary supplements all in one place. Okay, so it's a big kind of box store or conglomeration of different brands as a one-stop shop online. Third-party certification programs for supplements are organizations that test dietary supplements for banned substances, truth in labeling, so that what's actually on the label is in the product in that specific amount that they are testing for. And these three in particular are sport specific. So there are other organizations or certification programs for supplements that are kind of on a larger consumer scale that test for truth in labeling and making sure that what's on the label is in the product and maybe doesn't contain the herbicides, but they don't also test for banned substances in sport. These three do. So these three organizations test for truth in labeling. They audit the dietary supplement companies on a regular basis to ensure good manufacturing practices and also to make sure that each batch or lot that they test do not contain any of the banned substances on their respective lists. Right now, I think they all share some similarities in the banned substances that they test for, but there are some differences as well. But again, a good way to minimize the risk for the athlete. I will say, because they are testing the product, that is a great thing because we are identifying what's actually in the product and it reflects appropriately on the label. Yet none of these organizations can actually offer a 100% guarantee. Unfortunately, because they are only testing a single lot or a batch for each production of that product. So should an athlete consume a lot that was not tested specifically by that organization, there could be some discrepancies and some potential for banned substances to appear, although a very slight risk, but still there. One thing to keep in mind about all of these, they are voluntary, and so not every supplement on the market is susceptible to third-party certification. The manufacturer has to opt in. They have to want to do the right thing and get their product tested for banned substances and truth in labeling. It does cost money for them to do all of this, and so I think we'll hopefully see a larger trend in more supplement companies looking for third-party certification as a quality assurance measurement, but again, it's not out there. There are also some instances where companies misuse these labels, and so we've seen this actually in products we've researched through Drug-Free Sport Access that a product that is actually not BSCG or Informed Choice or NSF, but lists it on their website saying, yes, we are NSF certified for sport, when in fact, when we go back and check with the NSF list, they are not. They've just used that for false advertising. So there are some things, again, to still pay attention to, but it is one good tool to pay attention to. The other tool is Drug-Free Sport Access, which obviously we'll go into here, but it's formerly our Resource Exchange Center, and we've recently undergone a rebrand in 2016 to have Drug-Free Sport Access be this all-encompassing resource for our sports medicine teams at the ground level, as well as for athletes looking for confident and or confidential information related to their drug program information. And so we really are hoping to expand our resources to be anything related to athlete health and wellness, and really being that center point for all athletes as well as the sports medicine staff on campus. So I've got listed here 2 ways to get into Drug-Free Sport Access, as well as the organization and password for the NAIA that you'll use to log in. I'll repeat this slide at the end of the presentation, or close to the end of the presentation, so that you'll be able to repeat it, but we'll talk a little bit about what happens once you do log into Drug-Free Sport Access. Our primary functionality, I would say right now, is our dietary supplement inquiry function. And that is where athletes or sports medicine staff associated with NAIA can log in and ask about any dietary supplement. And then we'll use our risk level rating system to advise and educate on, what we see for the product label, what we know about the manufacturer, all of the ingredients that we've researched in the product, and then provide a risk level for the athlete to make an informed decision. We also offer a prescription and over-the-counter medicine database, and this is very helpful if, let's say, an athlete presents with a cold and the sports medicine team wants to make sure that any over-the-counter cold medication that they'd like to take doesn't contain any banned substances. Similarly, if they present to campus and they have a list of prescription medications, these can also all be checked in the database. Because there is more federal oversight of prescription and over-the-counter drugs, this will be an immediate response for any of our users. So once you log on, you will get an immediate response as to whether or not that prescription or over-the-counter medicine is banned or not banned. So it's a very immediate, very quick resource. We'll also list drug program information, banned drug lists, as those do or may change with different substances year to year for the NAIA, also medical exceptions processes, and anything else that the NAIA deems necessary to share with their membership institutions. We also have available sports nutrition handouts and athlete recipes, which I'll discuss in a few slides here as well, just as a continuing education. These are our currently offered services, but within our rebrand and expansion of services, we also hope to offer mental health resources, body image resources, and other educational tools to really talk about supplement safety, as well as other substances of abuse such as marijuana or prescription drug abuse on campus. I've mentioned our risk level rating system, and so I wanted to kind of dive into that a little bit so you understand how we communicate about dietary supplements. It's never a yes or no, take this, don't take this, in our response regarding dietary supplements. And I can understand that that can be very frustrating at the ground level because we're looking for a solid answer. But really our goal is education. And that's where the risk level rating system comes in, because we really want our athletes to understand that there is always a risk with dietary supplements until something changes at the federal level to ensure quality and purity for their health and safety. So we've devised our 3-level tiered system. There is no risk level 0 because we do not test products here at Drug-Free Sport. That's why in conjunction with our third-party certification programs, as we mentioned before, these can be tools that significantly minimize risk together. What we do is we look at every single product that comes into our organization. We've got real individuals looking at the product, looking at the product label, researching each of the ingredients, making sure the formulation hasn't changed, the product hasn't been called or recalled by the FDA, hasn't been cited by consumer scams, or has anything suspect on their marketing. And then we relay, based on that information, on which risk level we would assign it to. Risk level 1 means that these labels do not list ingredients that are specifically banned by the NAIA. They also do not correlate to marketing claims associated with any of the banned drug classes. But again, because we're not testing the contents of the product, we are just researching on what we can see on the marketing and the product label. This does not guarantee that the product will not cause a positive drug test. So again, in conjunction with certified, if we have a level 1 product and also a third-party tested product, the risk of causing any type of issues that would limit eligibility for your athletes is significantly minimized. So using those two tools together is highly recommended. Level 2 is again, our medium kind of middle gradient here. And level 2 can be assigned for any number of reasons, most notably probably for those ingredients that have limited scientific evidence regarding their safety or purity or effects on the body. This happens a lot with our herbal ingredients or glandular products that we mentioned previously, or the marketing appears suspect and makes significant claims related to some of our banned drug classes that puts that particular supplement at a higher risk. This will also fall for products that may contain caffeine. As many of you know, caffeine is a banned substance according to the NAIA under the stimulants drug class. The reason that we don't put caffeine in a risk level 3 category, even though it is considered a banned substance, is because caffeine appears in many products on the market and in many different ways, and the depth of which is quite broad. And so on one extreme, you may have the caffeine coming from decaffeinated green tea extract, or the coffee flavor in a particular type of protein powder. And then on the other extreme, you have thousands of milligrams of caffeine anhydrous, which is pure caffeine, showing up in a pre-workout or fat-burning product, which could cause a significant risk in that capacity. All of this is explained in the frequently asked questions box specifically for or available on Drug-Free Sport Access, and so we do drive student athletes and sports medicine personnel to that section should they need more communication or information on where caffeine falls. Level 3 is going to be, of course, our highest risk category. This is when those labels do list ingredients that are specifically banned, or we have information that this particular product has been cited for contamination or adulteration issues with banned substances. So even if it hasn't been reported by the FDA, perhaps we've also heard that this particular substance has caused an issue on drug testing or significant adverse health effects. So really a dual system here, and it serves the purpose of not just advising on the presence or absence of banned substances, but also any type of significant health risk in order to keep our student athletes safe on campus. So what do we do with all of this data? So we do get thousands, over 20,000 inquiries from our collegiate programs each year, and while we don't report specifics out to membership schools or to the sport organizations themselves, and most notably because we really do want athletes to feel confident about their information being secure, but getting reliable information should they have a question about dietary supplements. So we want to be that confidential resource for them. But in total, in sum, we really can see some significant trends. And so this is our data from 2016 for our collegiate programs. This is both NCAA as well as NAIA combined. And the reason I haven't excluded or just isolated NAIA is that as a newly added Access client, the numbers are still pretty low. And so I just still wanted to show you some significant data here. But we do see that the top 3 categories are our protein powder, creatine products, as well as our pre-workout energy, followed by our vitamin, mineral, and immune health products. And so those are going to be things like probiotics or multivitamin, mineral, they might even be iron capsules, things like that would fall into that particular category. Other trends we see, this is our risk level rating system, and so you can see about 2/3 of the products that we review tend to fall under that risk level 1 category, followed by risk level 2 being about the other third, and then a small percentage being that 7% risk level 3. And if we go back a second to take a look at our supplement categories, that should start to make sense, that a lot of them will fall in that risk level 1 category based on our explanation, because if we think about them as single ingredients, whey protein powder or creatine are not banned substances, right? So and often, many times, they're not marketed to the extreme with, anabolic or testosterone boosting tendencies or fat burning potential, things like that. And so under our classification, those would still be our risk level 1 products. Same thing with our vitamins and minerals, the probiotics as an example, or vitamin C, again, not as single ingredients, not specifically banned by the NCAA, unlikely to cause an issue with drug testing, and so that's where we have that large number of risk level 1. Pre-workout and energy products, on the other hand, can fall within many different capacities, but those are largely going to fall within our risk level 2 and risk level 3 categories. The risk level 2 are going to be the ones that do list caffeine in them as well, and the risk level 3 are going to be those that list maybe caffeine plus another stimulant, such as an amphetamine-like stimulant that can cause some significant risk with both drug testing as well as the athlete's health and wellness. So that's the supplement inquiry function side of things. But I also mentioned that we have sports nutrition resources, and this is just a quick glance at our sports nutrition handout page that is accessible on Drug Free Sport Access. And the purpose here is to provide options and PDFs that can be easily downloaded and printed, put up in locker rooms, shared with athletes, put on a bulletin board. There's even some sport-specific ones that you can see here that have come from the Collegiate and Professional Sports Dietitians Association and scanned through the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and these are groups of sports dietitians rather that have come together to present the best science for each of these topics. And so we do make those available, as well as some of our own, through Drug Free Sport Access as topics come up. Finally, our other resource that I mentioned were athlete recipes, and this is our athlete recipe box. And so we've added some thumbnails. The really cool thing, I think, about these recipes is that we actually try them here, and having been on campus and working with athletes, we understand that we need meals that are quick, that are easy, that taste good. They require very little or limited culinary know-how. Maybe use a microwave instead of the stove top, and probably our most labor-intensive are these make-ahead meals, but still within reason. If you can have an athlete set aside a Sunday to make a crock pot meal, or a big batch of chicken enchiladas that they can eat off for the rest of the week, that is a huge win. The other thing is they're not using, it's all budget friendly. We're not using extremely expensive items or products, asking them to go to 12 different grocery stores to find all the different seasonings that they might need in there. So really quick and easy, and we do add about 3 new recipes each month, so this will continue to grow as we grow as a resource. So really, really cool. We've had a lot of success with programs finding a recipe a month or every 2 weeks, printing it out and handing it out to their athletes as well to kind of give it a try and talk about it. And the reason we really put so much emphasis on these sports nutrition resources and recipes within Drug Free Sport Access is because we know from the volumes of research out there that good nutrition and food choices really make a considerable impact on student-athlete health and performance when it comes to athletics, and really achieves most of the things that actually lead athletes to supplements in the first place, right? A lot of times, as we mentioned, athletes are looking to increase energy. Well, guess what? If we can get their nutrition and meal choices under control, it's going to do just that. Improving mental focus, impacting recovery time? How about this? Increases in muscle mass and decreases in fat mass, if we can just get a handle on their meal planning. And what this translates to on campus is, and what we see is that we're missing the mark because we have athletes that are missing breakfasts, missing lunches, maybe due to where their practices may fall within the day, and they get nervous about eating. But if we can give them appropriate tactics to still maintain their meal plan to meet their total calorie intake, I think we'll see large improvements and less of a reliance on dietary supplements that can be quite risky. Another thing we see are inappropriate dining hall meal options or fast food options that are higher in fat and just a disconnect or disproportionate amount of the different macronutrients that athletes need to succeed. Also, within athletics, there's always such a emphasis on more protein, and so often really the limiting factor for many athletes is that they may be cutting carbohydrates back too much. Protein is usually not the issue so much as not getting enough carbohydrates for energy before, during, or after a practice or competition type of setting. Especially this time of year, when we have athletes that might be looking for, sneak trick ways to lose weight or drop weight, and they're reading articles that Americans are eating too many carbohydrates. Okay, well, I need to cut back. And as we know, that's probably inappropriate advice for our athletes that need that fuel and those carbohydrates for energy. It could also come down to just total calorie intake and our athletes not taking in enough to compensate for how much they're expending during practice or even just sitting in classes during the day. Our athletes don't realize as full-time students they're also burning significant amounts of energy when they're just sitting in class. And they need to maintain, an adequate calorie intake to fuel their bodies as well as their brains to be able to pay attention and stay awake during those down periods. We also see a significant amount of athletes using recovery shakes for meal replacement. So for many programs that offer recovery shakes in the weight room, following a strength or conditioning bout, how many times do athletes come back and grab another shake for a quick snack or to replace a meal because they didn't have time or didn't pack something from home? This is really an inappropriate use of that supplement and can cause some disparaging outcomes for their body composition when used inappropriately. And finally, as we talked about, the difference, they're looking at supplements before they start inquiring about food. What can food do for my performance? What can food do to help with my fatigue? What can food do to make me to help me build muscle mass instead of fat mass? And so what I want to do here is I want to show you 6 different examples of food to supplement comparisons that we've done here at Drug Free Sport. And I think you're going to find that this really highlights what we want athletes to understand. And so what we've done here is we've taken nutrient profiles that we've analyzed through the USDA National Nutrient Database, and we've compared it to a dietary supplement. And instead of just choosing any dietary supplement, I really wanted us to sell the fact that these are supplements that athletes are using. We just didn't find the lowest of lows on all of these numbers. So I went to the GNC website and we looked at the top 10 best sellers in each of these categories. And so if we're looking at an amino acid blend supplement in this particular case, first of all, 1 serving is 3 capsules. Okay, and then we compare that to the 5.3 ounces of vanilla Greek yogurt, and you can see a tremendous difference in the numbers from the amino acid blend supplement to the vanilla Greek yogurt there. Leaps and bounds. I've also called out the branched chain amino acids, which tend to get special highlights in supplements as well, and those are shown in bold on the left-hand side. For those of you that may not be familiar with the ounces of yogurt, 5.3 ounces is very similar to a single serving size that somebody might buy at a grocery store, kind of like the Yoplait, Chobani size containers for single servings. Let's take a look at another example. Same amino acid blend supplement, but instead we're comparing them to 24 almonds. 24 almonds is just a small handful, so sits in the palm of your hand, and we're comparing this to actually a plant-based protein. Again, a significant difference in the type of amino acids that come from this plant-based protein that a lot of times I think we pass over. And again, I'll call out the branched chain amino acid differences that you can see there as well. What about our protein powders? So this is a top 10 best-selling protein powder blend. And I say blend because it's not just 100% whey protein or 100% casein protein as an example, but rather those protein powder blends that are then adding in, vitamins and minerals, the digestive enzymes and things like that. So that's going to be the difference between a protein powder and a protein powder blend. But we compare that to a simple snack of 4 slices of turkey wrapped around a string cheese, a pretty quick and easy savory roll-up, if you will. If we compare it and just look at the protein, we got 16 grams to 31 grams in the food. So the amino acid profile will actually reflect that difference again in the total protein content that we have. I'll call out the calorie difference here just because that might look a little concerning for some people, but I'll say in the grand scheme of things for most athletes, a 50-calorie difference for most athletes is pretty negligible, especially for how much energy expenditure that they have throughout the day. Let's take a look at another example, and I put this one up here. I actually really like this one because I think it doesn't always have to be that the food far outweighs the supplement and just has all, the numbers are so much better with the food, but sometimes they can be a pretty good match, right? And also a cheap and affordable match. If we think about the relative cost of 3 eggs to, a serving of the protein powder blends, some of which can be anywhere upwards of $80 for a 30-day supply. So in this case, we've got pretty comparable protein grams, 16 and 18. And so you can actually see some differences here in the protein powder, or I'm sorry, in the amino acid profile between the two because of those similar protein contents. Biggest things, again, I'll point out here is the difference in calories. Now this is a little bit more significant than we were looking at in the last one. But I think what we forget about, and you can notice this in the fat, that's going to be where most of that, the calorie difference is coming from the egg yolk. And the egg yolk is an extremely nutrient-dense part of the egg that I think we pass over because we think, well, there's no protein coming from that. But what is not reflected on the supplement facts label here is all of the, fat-soluble vitamins, for example, that get trapped in that egg yolk that are then easily digestible, and the other nutrients that come from, the anti-inflammatory fats, for recovery that can come from the food and are not necessarily added synthetically to the supplement. I'll transition here to a weight or mass gainer supplement. These are for athletes that are looking to gain weight, maintain weight, especially in the off season. We get a lot of questions on weight gainer supplements. And really the education just needs to go back to these athletes to say, hey, maybe we should just take a look and see how many total calories you're getting in a day and where we might make some differences there. Because really supplements are a use it or lose it type of phenomenon, right? If they start using this supplement to gain weight, and then all of a sudden they either run out of money, they run out of product, forget to reorder it, or life gets in the way and they just stop, hey, guess what? That weight increase is not going to stick around. But if we can teach athletes to use food to their advantage, right? Food is a basic human necessity. They must eat to survive. They must eat to perform. And so if we can create educational opportunities to talk to them about food in that capacity, that it's a sustainable way to achieve their goals, specifically with weight gain and weight maintenance, I think we've really can come a long way. A few things I'll point out here. Again, the calories are relatively very similar. You're pretty negligible in the difference there. The fat, second one down there, 18 to 6, might seem alarming, but I'll call your attention to a couple rows down here where we're listing the monounsaturated and the polyunsaturated fats. We've got 13 grams, and while it's unknown, and the weight mass gainer, just take a look at the saturated fat compared to the total fat. 3 grams in the food, 4 grams in the supplement, and it makes up 2/3 of the total fat in the supplement. Those monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats, if you remember, are the anti-inflammatory fats that are excellent for recovery and rebuilding processes in the human body. The other thing I'll call out for the weight and mass gainers is the dietary fiber content. We've got 13 grams in the food compared to the 4 grams in the weight mass gainer supplement. Again, if we're talking about sustainable additions to see weight, stay on an athlete in the long term, having that added dietary fiber is what I like to consider that kind of stick to your ribs type of weight gain, okay? So it is going to stick around. And the other thing I like to talk about are the serving sizes. For the weight mass gainer supplement, 1 serving is 4 level scoops. If any of you have ever tried to add protein powder to water or milk or any other type of liquid to blend it up, 4 level scoops can be quite chalky, a very different mouthfeel, so really taste can come back down to that when you compare it to a peanut butter banana bagel with chocolate milk. And I'll tell you, by interviewing and asking most athletes, most of them love to eat food. We just need to provide them with some options that are attainable and real for them to consider. This is our last comparison, very similar to the other one, but we're looking at yogurt with granola, fruit and nuts, compared to the same weight and mass gainer. Very similar things to point out. The monounsaturated fats, again, a very different profile, a tremendous amount of potassium in the food, likely coming a large part from the banana and the yogurt. But we also have that fiber, again, pointing that out. And what we're missing, very similar to the protein powder blend here, is that we are, again, getting all of those added nutrients that come from the food, not just the unsaturated anti-inflammatory fats, but think about the different vitamins and minerals and antioxidants that are coming in to help also boost an athlete's immune health in the long run as well. So food can be such a powerful tool for us to educate our athletes on how to maybe look at food before they look at supplements. As promised, I'll put this back up here again. It's our login to Drug-Free Sport Access, so 2 different websites for you to log in. If you haven't done so already, I do encourage you to go online and check it out. If it's your first time visiting Drug-Free Sport Access, you will have to create an account by verifying an email address, and that is just so we can communicate to you that your supplement inquiry has been received and also when it's been responded to. And so you can quickly click back into your dashboard to look at the response review. And if you are working with athletes directly, there's actually an option to share your response with the athlete via text, or you can also print it out and share it with them one-on-one, which is highly encouraged as well to have that continuing conversation with them. One word of advice is when you do create an account, you'll receive a confirmation email that your email address has come through and been created. Hold on to that email, flag it, save it in a special folder, because that will be your quick link to log in from any device, your phone, your desktop, your home computer, wherever you might be, even an iPad, and you can quickly log straight into your dashboard without having to do anything else and then immediately ask some questions. And this will make a little bit more sense once you're on there and checking it out. If you've got questions, of course, you can ask our team. We're on social media. Please do, if you can, follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We do post updates all the time if we've heard of recalled supplements or new ingredients on the market to be watchful for. We also blog on a regular basis of what's going on at Drug-Free Sport, but also what's going on in the industry and things you probably need to know and pay attention to and communicate with athletes at the ground level. We also have our Drug-Free Sport Speakers Bureau. We go out to several campuses each year to talk on a variety of topics. So if I've said something here today that really catches your eye, or hey, I'd really like to put that information in front of our student athletes, but sometimes it just doesn't go over as well if it just comes from the same horse's mouth, and we understand that here as well. We really pride ourselves in customizing the content for your specific student athlete, because we know from having been out in the field enough as it is too, the issues at a campus in Colorado is going to be very different than maybe the social issues or substances of abuse issues that might be in the New England area. And so we want to make sure that when we come out, we're really pinpointing your largest concerns on campus for your student athlete population. And we use a lot of different fun tactics to try and get them involved, even using their phones for polling, live polling, so you can get some real live data for your student athletes. You can see some examples of some of the topics that we talk about: supplement safety, marijuana, prescription drug abuse, which is becoming a larger concern on campuses, as well as any issues with drug testing policies or any other substances of abuse. If you're interested in having one of our speakers visit your campus, please email my colleague Anna Filardo, and her information is also on this slide here with my email address as well. If you've got additional questions and maybe you're not attending our live event and have some questions after listening to the recording, we're more than happy to help you along the way. The last thing I'll say here before I take any questions is to mention that every NAIA membership school will be receiving a packet of 200 to 250 wallet cards that will be distributed or should arrive on campus within the next month here. And it should have all of the information for how to log in to Drug-Free Sport Access. It should also list information on the NAIA banned drug lists, as well as any primary information for, again, just athlete health and safety and the resources available that we've talked about today. Please, 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 I highly encourage you to share these with student athletes, pass them out. That's why they're there. Let us know if you need more. You're welcome to contact us regarding that as well. And just be looking for those in the next month or so. At this point, I'll just transition. I'm going to pull up our question box here and take a look at a few questions. The first question is if we do travel to Canadian universities for our speaking events, and the answer is a very simple yes, absolutely. Please do contact Ms. Anna Filardo for more information on our Speakers Bureau, and we can try and help you set something up for your particular campus. It also looks like I have a number of questions regarding caffeine. And as you may have noticed on our risk level rating system for the risk level 2, as I mentioned, caffeine does fall within that category, and caffeine is a banned substance. The threshold at which an athlete will test positive if their urine concentration is 15 micrograms per milliliter or more. Now, a lot of these questions are asking about, well, what does that mean when we're talking about a food or a drink? And there's no easy answer to respond to that, except that it really comes down to the individual and exactly how much is in the product. And without testing a product, it's going to be very difficult for us to do that. As I said, there's two very different extremes when it comes to supplement products, where the label might list what might look like a very small amount coming from green tea, but in reality, maybe once the product gets tested, it has 500 milligrams of caffeine. And then quite the opposite. The product may list that it has 1,000 milligrams of caffeine, but really only contain 50 milligrams, or it actually does contain 1,000. And so it's difficult for us to say. However, when you're educating athletes, because some of them might have a concern, well, I drink coffee every morning, or I have tea every morning, it will take a significant amount from food sources or beverage sources such as coffee and tea to create a positive drug test. There is more concern if they are getting their caffeine from an energy drink, which again is going to fall within that supplement category, and a lot of unknowns. And there have been instances where energy drinks do not actually list the appropriate amount of caffeine that's actually found in their product, and so that will be a little bit of a discrepancy. Same thing with pre-workout powders or those thermogenics we talked about, higher risk associated with the caffeine intake. However, when you are educating your athletes about caffeine being a banned substance, I think we can all rest assured that in the years that we've been drug testing, no athlete has tested positive from a normal consumption of caffeine or herbal teas, black teas, green teas, etc. So really, I hope that that does lay to rest some initial fears that I know a lot of athletes may have surrounding that as well. If you've got additional questions, again, please feel free to reach out to me via email. I'm more than happy to help, especially when it comes to caffeine. And you can also find more information on how we rank and talk about caffeine on Drug-Free Sport Access under the FAQs or Frequently Asked Questions section. Thank you so much for listening today and taking the time to learn about supplement safety for your athletes, our collegiate trends that we've been seeing recently, and also about drug-free sport access. Thank you and have a wonderful day.